empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, 8 to 20 feet, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order Christmas Day edition, which essentially means that spring ball began today at 8:30 in the morning at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. Ryan Day, Coach Meyer and Ryan Day have adopted the early morning practices, which the players love, the coaches love, gets it out of the way. They can go focus on class and doing whatever for the rest of the day. But, they wake up nice and early, get their meetings in, get their practice in, and then they have the rest of the day to chill and recover. So I love it. Little bit of a different pace, different look. We've been talking a lot about the addition of Jim Knowles, so the defense looks much different now. The staff is obviously almost completely turned over, minus Larry Johnson, and I think that there's a lot of excitement in there. There's a lot of really young blood that is excited about this transition. Young guys on the D line that wanted to play more last year that are going to have their chance this year. And with the spring, man, hope always springs eternal. So this is going to be a good one. I'm excited. We got a million notes. We had some really great inside information leading up to today. We did not expect to see Josh Fryer. We kind of got the note that he's probably going to be out, and sure enough, he was. Harry Miller was a mild surprise. He, is likely to be out for spring. I'm not sure how much more he's going to be able to do at all. So that'll be interesting. He's still planning to go to Nicaragua over spring break, do his mission work. But, I pray for the kid. He's a great kid. And, hopefully, we get him back at some point. But, everybody, keep Harry in your thoughts and prayers. Great kid. So with that, we appreciate you guys. Again, we keep, growing and growing, breaking records in terms of our growth and our views. It's not possible without you guys. So if you guys are enjoying our content, please click subscribe, give us a like, leave us a comment. The feedback is great. I always love hearing more of what people want, because that helps us fine tune and make the show better. So, you guys have a lot of input on this, whether you know it or not. So when you guys really say, hey, Kirk, maybe talk about this, or maybe do some more recruiting. We've got some fantastic recruiting stuff coming. I have an interview with the number one quarterback in the country in a couple of years that I'm going to be doing likely next week, getting that pinned down. Really excited about it. Talked to his father tonight. So we got some really good stuff coming. So, we're not getting any smaller at Buckeye Scoop, and this has been fun. So I'm going to bring in my dear friend, Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you tonight?
Doing good. Today was a fun day. Lots of excitement around the Woody Hayes, and hope springs eternal.
Yeah, and you've been doing this obviously for decades. Where does this spring rank in terms of excitement around the program, buzz around the program? Obviously, like when there's a full fire engine change of coaching staff, like in 2012 with Urban Meyer, maybe 2001 with Jim Tressel. There's obviously a lot of excitement just because everything's new. But when you whitewash half the staff and take away a lot of the D coaches, you get a new O-line coach. Where does this spring rank in terms of your excitement and your buzz, just in terms of how much is new right now?
Well, it's right up there. And, I had one of my best sources describe it to me this way. He's like, with Ohio State football, especially on the defensive side of the ball, Ohio State's, we've been cornerback U, and we've been linebacker U, and we put out some great defensive linemen. And you think about the Ohio State defense, the focal point's never been the safeties, and now the focal point on this defense is absolutely the safeties. And it's going to be interesting to watch how that plays out, because we've never seen an Ohio State defense so safety centric as this one's going to be. And that's bringing a lot of different guys into play. That's bringing a lot of different schemes into play. And watching the OSU defense transform this year is going to be fun all the way through the spring, all the way through the fall, and onto the field next year. But it's going to be a dramatic change for people. And so I can't emphasize that enough, that the defense is going to look nothing like the defenses looked before. And, it all starts at the safety position.
Yeah, and I think the ability for the safeties to adjust, and and obviously it's a way to combat how spread centric the offenses are in college football. And, you need guys that can run and hit and adjust. And again, they're part linebacker, they're part safety. They're kind of like that hybrid where you can move them around, and, they're your adjusters. And, guys like Court Williams, the stock ticks up when you have guys that are, kind of in the mid, those tweener type guys. Jim Knowles' defense, that's actually preferred. So, when you have the adjusters that can, go when they go three into the wide side of the field, three receivers on the wide side of the field, you adjust your two safeties over. He likes to call his backside safety the bandit, which again, like, I always love the cool names for a position that's basically just a free safety, and they call it the bandit because that's, because recruits think that it's cool to be called a bandit more than a free safety. But it's always intriguing. Another thing that is real intriguing is that they really are going to stick with the 4 down D lineman for now. Obviously, it's day 1 install, and we'll get through day 2 on Thursday. But I think that the combination of Jim Knowles moving from the Big 12 to the Big 10, and how run centric the schedule is going to be. We play Iowa, Wisconsin. We play some teams that really like to beat you up on the ground. They're not as spread centric as the Big 12 is. And the fact that by far the deepest unit on the team is the D line. So, if you want to go 3 down and have a walk around guy, you potentially you lose one of your D tackles. If you want to run 2 defensive ends, a nose guard, and then a walk around guy like a Jack Sawyer at the Jack position or Leo position, whatever I think they're going to end up calling it the Jack. It's tough because our D tackles are actually pretty deep. So you can't take the deepest group off the field and have a guy come off. But anything surprising to you that came out today? Like on the offensive line, obviously there's a little bit less depth than we thought. Some of the skill guys are standing out. They had great winners. Anything surprising to you on the offensive side of the ball today?
Well, it was nice to see a kid like Jacob James get some shot out there. He's a guy who's been kind of a forgotten guy on the offensive line, and when we go through our 2 deeps, he's not a guy that we talk about a whole lot. But we've been hearing some good things about him over the winter, and it was just nice to hear him get a reference today for all the hard work that he put in. And I think he's going to be a guy that provides some depth for us. Ohio State's got the 5 guys that are up front right now with Johnson and Jones and Whippler and Jackson and DeJuan Jones that's going to be as good as any offensive line in the country right there. And the issue is going to be the depth and who are the guys that step in behind it. But I think the starting 5, assuming that they stay injury free and that they keep it clean, I think it's going to be a great unit this year. Will it be as good as last year? That's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to match that great unit from last year. But your skill position guys all got, especially at the key spots like quarterback and running back, all got a year older, year more experience, and that tends to make an offensive line look even better. So I'm not as concerned about the depth on the offensive line. I mean, heck, you played in years where you had 7 and 8 guys, and that was it. This offensive line still going 10, 11, 12 deep, and I think there weren't too many surprises on the offensive side. I think, but the defense, boy, so many. Everywhere you turn, it was surprises, and But again, that's where we had the questions need to be answered on that side of the ball, and I think we're starting to see the formation of that Knowles defense, and that's one of the answers.
Yeah, and I think it was very telling, and this is something that you've spoken about multiple times in Nuggets, but the Cade Stover effect is very interesting. He switched to number 8, so he's got a single digit now, so he's looking sharp in the single digit. But Jim Knowles said he's like, this is a guy that we need to find a spot for. Why? Because he's a plus. He's a plus as a leadership. Will likely be a captain. He's a fantastic athlete. He's a great teammate. He does whatever. He puts the team first, regardless of his situation. And he's still on defense, even though if you put a gun to our heads, we put him on tight end, and especially with Mitch Rossi out this spring, we're gonna have Keith Scott, Joe Roy, but we're really thin at tight end. And I think Cade could start at tight end and instead of being in the mix at linebacker. But Jim Knowles mentioned he could be a Leo. Because to me, I'm not sure how he fits as one of the 2 interior linebackers. I'm not sure if he's athletic enough to run and be one of the 2 interior linebackers, but I think he'd be a great fit as a Leo defensive end type, just because I think his body type is more for that position, just because I don't think he runs as well as the Cody Simons and those types of guys. And I think it's going to be real interesting to see what they do with Cade. Another guy, and I'm actually going to take us into the film room right now, is our boy Chip from Akron Hoban. Kid that came in from Arizona State. Uh, you know, Diamante Tram. He's a kid that really has a lot of talent. He goes by the nickname Chip, so it's Diamante Chip. Train him. He was wearing 19 today. Really a physical kid. Again, played running back at Arizona State. So we like to run a little bit of film while we're talking, but this is him at tailback, so you can see some of his athleticism from high school. And I pulled this up because there really isn't any tape of him on in college playing linebacker, but there are some clips of him playing linebacker, and he's an explosive hitter. He's a ripped up dude. I mean, that's kind of one of the few good things about when you see these guys in just shells. They were allowed to wear the little pillow pads, the shells today, is that you can kind of see a little bit more definition because they don't have the bigger pads on and the bigger the pants on, so you can see them in just shorts with that. And this is one of those guys that's like, you want to be one of the first, after DeWan, you want him to probably be the second guy off the bus because he is a ripped up dude. Here he is playing defense. His first clip kills the guy. I mean, just absolutely explosive hitter. It looks like they got Mark Pantoni running through the hole here, and Mark has a rough day when he meets them right on the Hoban H. But, an enforcer type, and I'm excited about him. Nevada, what are your thoughts on the potential role? Again, like you see the explosiveness in the hitting. Again, that's why we had to pull up the high school film because there's no tape of him playing linebacker in college. So we had to pull out the old school and see what he looked like when he was going both ways at Hoban. But what do you think Chip can do for this defense potentially?
Well, I mean, Chip's a guy that I loved him in college at running back, and he was a guy that always stood out when Arizona State played, and he was a guy that you just couldn't keep your eyes off when he was on the field. And the fact you're getting a guy that athletic at the linebacker spot for Ohio State, I think that's really been the key for the Ohio State linebackers has just been they've been a little stiff. The guys that have done well have been the athletic types that can run side to side, and he's
Yeah.
definitely one of those. So I think he's going to step up and provide some excitement for the Ohio State defense, even though again it's a position that it's not featured. Those two linebacker spots are pretty much interchangeable on the Knowles defense, but I put him back at safety. I mean
Yeah.
he's a big guy. He can run. He can hit, and at times Knowles played 5 safeties last year, so I think you could see some really interesting types of combinations with guys that are those hybrids that can run, and he can definitely run.
Yeah. And something, with these hybrid type safeties is as long as you can run, you can play it. I mean, you gotta be able to run. You gotta be able to cover some ground. And it's like, you watch him. I mean, God, they put him out here at corner. So I mean, he was playing safety, and he walks out over. I mean, it's scary. I mean, he's a big athletic dude, and he gave up a lot. I mean, Arizona State might be underwater soon, but when you're dealing with what was going on out there, and then you have a chance to come back home, play linebacker, and contribute. I mean, you see the guy can get to the ball. He gets guys down. He gets there with an attitude. I'm really excited about this kid, and but this is just kind of something that crossed into my head. Say Meatball takes off, Chop Williams, Mine Williams, he takes off, and maybe we're not cutting the mustard with a backup tailback. Is there any chance you could ever see this kid backing up Trey Henderson ever?
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting thought. Now, even though Evan Pryor did get some love today, and they talked about how hard he was working, so I'm not
Yeah,
expecting any of that. That would be kind of like the JT Tumaloto tight end
tight end.
type
Yeah,
of slander. Yeah, but no, I mean, look, you go back and watch the tape of him at running back at Arizona State. I mean, he was terrific. But I think he could do us more help at linebacker. I think he will give us help at linebacker, and no, he's gonna be a fun guy. Like I said, I could do an entire segment just on him. I'm that excited about him as a player.
yeah, and I mean, again, that was just that's not any type of prediction or anything, but it's like I can't think, and I'll defer to you on this one, Nevada. Has there ever been a player that has who is a starter and a really good player at a big program. That's a Pac-12 program, Arizona State, and he started at a position like running back, and then he came here and switched positions to something he hadn't played since high school. Like I can't remember any type of ordeal like that, but I've seen in-season position changes. I saw when we 2012, like Zach Bourne was basically like a square peg in a round hole with Urban Meyer's offense, because he'd gone from Jim Tressel's offense, which was high formation, fullback plays 70 plays a game, to, we're trying to make Zach, who's a stubby 6 foot tall, 250-pound fullback, into a tight end, which is more of a Jeff Hireman, Nick Vannett kind of role. And it really wasn't working. We kind of had to find a way to put Zach in when we really wanted Jeff Hireman and Nick Vannett to take those reps at that inline wing tight end position that Urban had in his offense. And, eventually, he kind of got phased out, much to, his consternation, because Zach's a very emotional kid. He's a great kid, very emotional kid. And eventually, when we were down to nobody on defense, Luke Fickell's like, hey, I'll take him. And, we played him and we took him. He took him literally like during the stretch lines and took him over to the linebackers. And, the kid ends up starting and playing, 80 plays against Indiana in a game where they scored like 42 points against us or whatever. But he played a lot of snaps that night, and, and he never looked back. But, it's always weird because it usually tends to be either like a receiver corner or like a linebacker running back that can make that transition. But yeah, it's fun watching this film because, again, there's no defensive film of him in college. So we have to go back to, here he's playing defense at home and like he's running in coverage. And, obviously if it's on his highlight tape, then he's going to be, making the play and doing whatever. And here he is running the ball against, St. Ignatius. And this is big time ball right here. And he's getting to the edge and probably going to score a touchdown here since it's highlight tape. But yeah, it's fun. It's fun to kind of project some of these things. Who do you think? Obviously, they'll have one more practice, and then they're going to go off to spring break and do their thing. Who do you think over the next 2 weeks will be a couple of guys that are going to be trending upwards in a big way, in your opinion?
Well, I am just a big Ronnie Hickman guy. I think Ronnie Hickman is a guy that did a lot of good things last year, and the player that I was really excited about, was a big impact guy. But in this defense, I just can't help but think he's just going to be all over the field this spring. And I think Ronnie Hickman is going to go from being a guy to being the guy. And that's certainly something that a name to keep an eye on for sure. And offensively, I'm looking for Emeka Egbuka to kind of take the next step and go from being really, really good to being really, 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 really good. And so I think offensively, he's been just a stalwart in the winter workouts. He's added about 10 pounds of muscle. He looks faster. He looks even more fluid if that's possible. His connection with CJ is out of this world. And I think they're going to be really careful with JSN in terms of limiting his time, even though we're short on numbers at wide receiver. I think they're going to move him all over the field, do some interesting things with him. But I think Emeka is going to be a guy that's going to be trending way up. I'm buying that stock big time right now.
What do you think? Who do you think is the highest trending guy? Because we've been on Donovan Jackson. He was part of the 74 club. I was so excited. Then he changed his number to 72 on me. It goes his high school number. But, that kid, obviously, from the looks of it, it looks like he's locked up right guard. Obviously it's one day in, but I just don't know who's going to beat him out with Harry being out and with, kind of the lack of competition. But I'm really excited to see him and Dewan get some work in, Kai Stokes, Jack Sawyer, CJ Hicks. I'm going to fire up a couple of images real quick just because I love seeing how some of these kids are looking. It's always fun to see how these kids look after, a winter of conditioning, because it's stellar. I'm telling you, some of these guys look just absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to bring us back into the film room. Jack Sawyer, roughly 268, muscular. I think he got bounced around a little bit last year, so all of a sudden he had to get in the weight room and get a little bit stronger. You know, CJ Hicks, I think looks fantastic. You know, again, for a kid that should be in high school right now to be that defined, that thick, the benefit of spring practice, and you know, Sonny Styles reclassifying too is something that I think is going to be a really a nice shot in the arm just because of his rare athleticism. So you add him and CJ to this linebacker room, and you've got two guys that are going to letter next year. They're going to start next year. I'm sure they'll be on every special team together, and they can play significant minutes. I mean, you never know because these guys are true linebackers, you know, and they're the rare athletic specimens that we want at linebacker. God, I mean, Ben Chrisman has put in some work, man. I mean, he is much more defined. You know, you're looking at who's going to be that third tackle. You know, he's going to be a true sophomore, big kid. Obviously, like he looks trim. A kid that I'm just excited as can be. Is repping Shane's old number. You know, this is a kid that obviously, you know, Denzel Burke is going to be through the moon. And I thought this was funny today because, you know, there were people saying that he changed to number 2. And in reality, you know, he just switched jerseys with Court Williams, like for a period or two. So like, it's just one of those funny things in practice is like, you know, people will say, oh, this guy did this, or this guy wasn't out there, or this guy was there. And it's like, in reality, these guys do this all the time just to kind of be funny. You know, it's kind of like a thing to keep it loose where they switch jerseys and, you know, then you'll have some guy in there saying, oh, well, this guy wasn't out there today. It's like, no, he was just wearing number 85 instead of 86 or 92 instead of 2 or whatever. And, you know, we've had some fun with that. But I mean, what do you think the ceiling is for Denzel this year, Nevada? Because that's the guy I honestly don't know if we've talked about him enough and how good he was last year, but what's his ceiling this year as a true sophomore?
Well, he was a guy that we were on early. He was one of our breakout guys. If you remember last year, before anybody was talking about him, we were talking about him. But he's even better than I thought he was. And in that number 2 jersey, he reminds me of my favorite number 2 at Ohio State, Christian Bryant, who was I was watching some of the old Ohio State best moments from the 2002 to 2020, and he had a little stretch where he had like 3 or 4 great plays, and he just reminded me of that. So I wanted to give him a shout out right now. But no, Denzel's, I mean, he's a terrific player. You know, kind of a 3 and done guy at cornerback, the next great cornerback at Ohio State, and he's really put in the work. I mean, he's added muscle and gotten faster as well, and he's as good as he wants to be, and certainly is going to be in line for a lot of All-American teams this year.
Yeah, I love the Reggie Bush swag too, with the one long sleeve. Then you cut, so you got to like ruin a shirt, like cut one of the sleeves off so that you have like just completely exposed arm. And you have the long sleeve. But now he's a kid that against Oregon. I mean, after Oregon, I was like, this kid is going to be a superstar. See, that Oregon game last year, even though we lost, he was balling and he graded out really high that game. But yeah, he's got just an unbelievable ceiling, and you know, we really need a corner to step up and play. I mean, you know, Seven Banks was a disappointment last year. I love that your favorite number 2 of all time, if you would have given me 500 guesses as who your favorite number 2 is, I don't know if I ever would have gotten to Christian. Yes, that's extremely interesting. Like I mean, I thought for sure you're gonna say Malcolm Jenkins because he played corner, and you know,
yeah,
I mean,
that was too obvious. I wanted to give you something
Christian,
a little bit more deep dive. Yeah, Christian Bryant.
And it's amazing. His brother won the Thorpe Award at Cincinnati over Sauce Gardner, his teammate. He's probably gonna be a top 10 pick. And it's Colby Bryant. And it's just that is, except thinking you're gonna say, like, I was like, well, he's not gonna say Chris Carter. He's not gonna say, you know, I was thinking you're gonna say Mike Doss, or I mean, holy cow. So that's Terrell Pryor. I mean, there's some mega number 2s. But yeah, man, it's just excited to see these kids. You know, these kids are kind of back at it. You know, I mean, it's always like the first day of school. PJ looks fantastic. You know, Paris Johnson is likely going to be our left tackle. You know, physically fit. He looks like he's thicker, so he's probably about 310 now. You know, which is great. You know, have a little bit more oomph behind you to stop the bull rush. But yeah, this is going to be interesting. And then this is the guy. You know, we all have our kind of our favorites and our dark horses. I mean, Kai Stokes, I mean, it looks like an NFL player, and he's 18. Like, I don't know, you know, obviously I think nutrition's better. I think training's better, but you know, this kid looks like a physical freak of nature. I'm really excited for him because, again, I think that we're a little thinner at safety than we'd like to be. And the fact that he's up here, he gets to soak up a lot of reps early. And, if this is a safety driven defense and this kid's a 4 to 5 star safety, and he's here early, then he's going to get a lot of those reps and a lot of experience. And, he looks tremendous and he covers a lot of range. He's going to be a guy we're going to do. We're likely going to include him in tomorrow's show. We're going to break down some of his tape, what he can expect. But his range, his ball skills, his freakiness, again, like the people I talked to someone, in the WHAC, it's like he is just a freak of nature, and it's like he's like a Proctor, I mean, I've heard Josh Proctor's name more than I ever, I mean, I know he's a great player and all, but like I mean, I hear it a lot where they're like, he is a freak, he is a punisher, he is an enforcer, and it's like, and that's unsolicited. I don't say, hey, how's Josh Proctor doing? It's like, hey, who's looking good, who feels good, who who are you excited to see, and I keep getting Josh Proctor. So, when they compare Kai to him, then I think that that's really favorable because the people I'm talking to are people that are really in the know. They're people that see him every day. And and when they say something, I listen because they've been around first round picks and Pro Bowl players. And so it's, if they say something, it's not because it's the first time they've ever seen a great athlete. But yeah, I think Kai is a kid he's gonna have a huge ceiling, and really excited about him. So we got another practice on Thursday, Nevada. But yeah, then we got spring break. Then they're going to put the pads on. It's going to get going for real. So, any final thoughts from the first day of spring ball? They had a nice availability with Kevin Wilson. They had one with Jim Knowles. But any final thoughts or anything you gleaned from today that you're excited or didn't know going into the first day of practice? So your final thoughts, Nevada?
Well, I think the Ohio State coaches made a big thing of, during the offseason, one of the things that they identified is that the team really lacked leadership. And, that was one of the nuggets that we'd kind of broken over the offseason was the internal forming of these squads where almost like in the military, where you have squad leaders that are responsible for their guys and for their problem children and the other people, on the team. Because, leadership was something that seemed to be sorely lacking on the Ohio State team last year. I think they were really pleased with how those squads worked out over the winter. It's kind of extended into the spring, and it was just fun to see them talk about that. And you heard almost every single one of the coaches and assistant coaches talk about how the leadership seems to be better on this year's team. And I think that's going to be a real important thing. And maybe that's that missing ingredient that carries Ohio State through to the national championship. But it all starts in the winter and spring with guys stepping up, and you're seeing guys stepping up, and that's really exciting to hear.
Yeah, I think that the ability to hold people accountable and have kind of those uncomfortable, tough conversations, because not everybody is meant to be a leader. Not everybody likes to be held accountable. Not everybody likes to be, I guess, conditionally told, hey, look, this isn't acceptable, this isn't good enough, because it's hard to have this conversation sometimes. Like sometimes, like when you're working with people and they're not used to a certain standard of excellence, or they're lazy, or they don't show up to work every day, or they work 1 or 2 days and they should be working 7 days. Like it's something that people that are high achievers aren't used to, and it's tough. And you gotta call them out and say, hey guys, like this isn't, for what we're expecting out of you, this isn't it. And sometimes they don't like to hear that, but it just is what it is, because mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. And that's something that I think was an issue last year, is that I think that there were some guys that needed to be called out and held accountable, and it just didn't happen. I think people were too busy off doing, worrying about themselves and not doing it. And I've been in a situation before where, in 07 when I was a captain and we lost Troy Smith and we lost like our vocal leader and the guys that held people accountable, and then I had to do it. And like, I'd never had to do it before, and I didn't ever really want to do it. But, if you don't do it, then nobody does it. And then it's just like a big mush, so it's one of those things where you have to really hone in on it. And I think you need guys like Cade Stover that aren't scared, and, and they're feared by their teammates, because he's a legit badass. Like he will beat you down if you don't want to be held accountable. Like you need more of that, and guys that are the standard bearers, that are tough as nails, and they'll hold people accountable, because the best teams are led by the players. They're not led by Ryan Day and Jim Knowles and Kevin Wilson. They're led by the players, the Cade Stovers of the world, and the the guys that can hold people accountable. So it's going to be tremendous to see how this evolves. And again, like when I keep hearing Cade Stover and I hear it from the best guys in the room, the best guys in the building, and they say how this guy is a leader and he's tough and he holds people accountable, like he's going to find a role somewhere. He's not going to be a guy who's going to be watching, because they need guys that are out there, physically playing and holding people accountable. And the last thing I'm going to say is I have so much respect for Cam Babb, for the fact that this kid's out there. He's a full participant today. That kid's been through, hell essentially with his injuries, his knee injuries, and he's out there. He's wearing number 1, which he's earned. He was a captain last year, despite not playing basically his entire career. So I hope that kid can give us something this year, and he can get the send-off he deserves as a player, because tremendous kid. Again, if you're a captain, you've never played, then that kind of says all you need to know about the players. But, the easiest way for Cam to be a great captain is to come out and have a massive season, be a big contributor in the offense or in the receivers room as a leader, and, just do what he can do to chip in and get some receptions and yardage, in a stacked room. So big shout out to Cam Babb. So in closing, again, the best Ohio State inside information site. Our message board has absolutely been on fire today. We've had a lot of information that nobody else has had. Josh Fryer being out, which was one that not many people projected. We knew he was gone. He pretty significant injury. Hopefully we'll be back for summer conditioning in the season. But it's we're growing. We have a great community. We have some of the smartest people that are Ohio State fans in existence on here. Very bright people, great people you'd want to get to know and talk to, have a beer with. I mean, really fantastic people. So if you want to be on the inside of Ohio State football, subscribe to BuckeyeScoop.com. If you have a friend or family member that you think would really enjoy being inside Ohio State football, pass them the link or buy them a nice little birthday gift to give them a year to Buckeye Scoop. My Twitter is at Kirk_Barton. My email is readily available on the site as well. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me and join this community, man, because it is awesome. We have such a great time. I'm on the board constantly, just interacting with people, talking to people. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much for supporting our channel. Again, if you could leave us a comment, some likes, make sure you subscribe, pass this video along to people. It all adds up, and it's adding up in a major way, and it's all thanks to you guys. So thank you, Buckeye Nation. You guys have a great night. We appreciate you, and go Bucks.